Imagine logging onto your computer, right, and finding that your personal AI assistant is just vastly smarter today than it was yesterday. Like, it's seamlessly predicting your thoughts.
Right, like total science fiction stuff.
Exactly. But at the exact same moment, the price of the food in your fridge just doubled.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And all because a physical cargo ship just can't safely pass through a strait of water like 7,000 miles away.
It's wild to think about.
It really is. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at a snapshot of a world hitting massive, just massive tipping points all in the exact same day.
Right.
Our source material is today's edition of the Daily Tech Reader Nightly News for Sunday, July 19th, 2026. And our mission for you today is simple, but it's huge.
It's very ambitious.
Yeah. We're analyzing 24 hours that span historic sports moments, escalating global conflicts, economic shockwaves, dramatic tech pivots, and honestly, truly anomalous weather patterns.
It is a phenomenal collection of information. There's one overarching theme to the sources today. It is bottlenecks.
Bottlenecks.
Okay. Yeah. We are living in an era where systems are incredibly highly tuned, meaning a single blockage in one area.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. Whether that's a defensive line on a soccer pitch, or a blocked shipping lane in the Middle East, a supply chain squeeze in hardware, or even a high-pressure ridge in the atmosphere. It creates a massive domino effect everywhere else.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the ultimate global spectacle, where the bottleneck was a literal wall of human beings.
Ah, yes. The 2026 World Cup final.
Spain has just won their second World Cup title, defeating Argentina 1-0, and the drama here is just off the charts.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about an extra-time thriller at MetLife Stadium. Ferran Torres finally rifling in a close-range finish in the 106th minute.
What a moment.
Right. And looking at the stats, Spain essentially built a brick wall in front of their goal this entire tournament.
Yeah, dominant almost feels like an understatement here.
They finished undefeated, right, with 7 clean sheets, meaning they let 0 goals in for 7 games.
Unbelievable.
And they conceded only 1 single goal the entire tournament.
Which is it's historic dominance.
Yeah.
And the contrast with Argentina is stark.
Yeah.
The global criticism coming down on the Argentine squad today is fierce.
It is brutal. They generated 0 shots in the first half. 0.
Yeah.
Total expected goals, or XG, which is basically a metric of how likely a shot is to actually go in, was a dismal 0.2.
Right, meaning statistically they only earned a fifth of a goal all game.
On exactly 2 total attempts.
Ouch.
And then, you have Enzo Fernandez getting sent off with a red card in extra time.
Right.
And Leandro Paredes being just universally condemned for a massive post-match brawl.
It was messy. Really messy.
But I have to push back a little on the global outrage here. Were Argentina's cynical tactics a deliberate, malicious choice? Or was it just the sheer desperation of a team realizing they were suffocating against an unbreakable Spanish system?
Well, it's likely a mix of both, right?
Yeah.
When a team realizes they just cannot pass through a defensive bottleneck, frustration boils over. And unfortunately, it culminated in a tragic, almost poetic end for Lionel Messi.
Right, at 39 years old.
Exactly. He played what is widely expected to be his final World Cup match. And the statistics really tell the story of that suffocation. Messi registered just 15 touches in the final.
Wow. 15 touches for the greatest player in the world.
Right. For comparison, the Spanish teenager Lamine Yamal had 26 touches.
That's crazy.
His best chance came way back in the 5th minute, and Spanish goalkeeper Unai Simon just beat him to the ball.
So close.
Yeah, so he ends the tournament with 8 goals, but no back-to-back title. And, the cyclical tragedy of it all.
Retired.
He is retiring from the World Cup at the exact same stadium, MetLife, where he briefly retired from international football a decade ago, back in 2016.
Man, that is heavy.
It really is.
And the sheer scale of the event was just mind-boggling. You had an 11-minute halftime show featuring Shakira, BTS, Justin Bieber, the PS22 chord.
What a lineup.
All closed out by Coldplay's Chris Martin. It was a cultural juggernaut. And while the on-pitch story is about endings, the business story is really just beginning.
Very true.
Fox Sports and Telemundo are projecting record-shattering U.S. viewership, something north of 55 million viewers.
Which proves, that live sports remain the ultimate cultural unifier. The sheer gravity of 55 million people watching the exact same broadcast transforms Fox and Telemundo's negotiating power.
Definitely.
They are entering the 2030 World Cup rights negotiations with FIFA from a position of absolute strength.
So we have 55 million people united by broadcast. But looking at the rest of our sources today, the world outside that stadium is doubly fragmented.
Yeah.
We are moving into the geopolitics section of the Daily Tech Reader. And looking at these geopolitical sources today, our goal is just to lay out the raw data on the table, exactly as it's being reported.
Right.
We want to make it super clear to you, the listener, that we are absolutely not taking sides or endorsing any viewpoints here. We just want you to see the sheer scale of what's happening.
It's important to look at this objectively because the situation outlined in the sources is incredibly tense.
Yeah.
We are on day 9 of the U.S. and Iran exchanging strikes.
And the rhetoric is escalating so rapidly.
Yeah.
Iran's IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, has an advisor named Mohsen Rezai who has explicitly warned that if U.S. attacks continue for another 2 to 3 days,
Which is practically tomorrow.
right, Iran will initiate what he called a stage of full-scale invasion and annihilation, stating no political border will provide security.
And it's not just rhetoric, unfortunately. Iran's foreign ministry has officially declared the diplomatic track that was being mediated by Qatar and Pakistan completely dead.
Wow. Dead.
On the other side, CNTCOM, the U.S. Central Command, has confirmed hitting approximately 90 military targets in this latest round.
And the scope is widening dangerously, too. I mean,
Yeah.
the Houthis are simultaneously ramping up attacks on Saudi targets.
Right.
This is threatening to spread the conflict into a region-wide war that could pull in Yemen, Jordan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and Iraq. The Gulf states are terrified.
And we absolutely cannot ignore the human cost detailed here. At least 36 Iranians killed and over 400 wounded.
That's awful.
16 American service members have died since February. Plus, health officials are warning of severe secondary casualty risks.
Like infrastructure stuff?
Exactly. If infrastructure strikes hit water and power systems, the death toll isn't just from explosives. It's from civilians lacking basic survival necessities.
It is incredibly grim. We also see Secretary of State Marco Rubio meeting with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun in D.C., reaffirming a framework where Israel withdrew from 2 areas in southern Lebanon.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Amidst all of these public declarations of dead diplomacy and full-scale invasion threats, a U.S. official told CNN that technical-level nuclear discussions between the U.S. and Iran are still quietly continuing.
Wow.
I know. It's like 2 neighbors aggressively throwing rocks at each other in the front yard while quietly standing in the backyard with surveyors meticulously measuring the property line.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is the sheer cognitive dissonance of modern statecraft.
Yeah.
It perfectly illustrates how multifaceted international relations are today. Political, public-facing diplomatic channels can be completely severed.
Declared dead.
Right. Declared dead to appease domestic or regional audiences. While the highly pragmatic back-channel technical negotiations regarding nuclear capabilities survive out of sheer existential necessity.
It's wild. And the shockwaves from these front yard rocks are immediately smashing into the global economy, creating massive physical bottlenecks.
Instantly.
Heading into Monday, oil markets are incredibly volatile. Brent crude, which is the major global benchmark for oil prices, closed near $90 a barrel.
Driven by that full-scale invasion threat.
Exactly. And a severe supply squeeze in the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, because if ships can't safely navigate the strait, the oil physically cannot get to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
We're also seeing spot gold, the price to buy physical gold right now, sitting near $3,995.
A huge spike.
Yeah. Gold is a classic safe haven asset during geopolitical panic, but interestingly, that safe haven bid is being partly offset by the expectation of interest rate hikes.
Which brings us to the Dallas Fed. Dallas Fed President Lori Logan, who is a colleague of Fed Chair Kevin Warsh, just became the first to publicly break with consensus.
Really?
Yeah. She is calling for an interest rate hike specifically to combat the oil inflation driven by the Iran war.
Interesting.
But let me challenge that logic for a second. Let me ask you, the listener, to think about this. How does a block straight thousands of miles away ruin your grocery budget?
That's a good question.
And more importantly, can the Federal Reserve actually fix that by raising interest rates? If the fundamental problem is that physical cargo ships cannot safely pass through a strait, how does making borrowing money more expensive solve the physical blockage?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, It reveals the mechanism of how central banks operate when their hands are tied.
Okay.
You are entirely correct that a rate hike doesn't unclog a strait. The Fed cannot magically teleport cargo ships.
Right.
What they can do, though, is destroy demand.
Destroy demand.
Yeah. By raising interest rates, they make your credit card debt, your car loan, and corporate borrowing much more expensive.
Oh, I see.
When money is expensive, people buy less stuff. The Fed is intentionally trying to cool down our desire to buy things so that it matches the sudden, broken lack of supply.
Wow. So they are fixing a supply problem by forcing us to demand less.
Exactly. And the global economy is a highly calibrated machine with absolutely zero slack.
Yeah.
The IMF sees the writing on the wall. They've already downgraded 2026 global growth to 3.0%.
Down from what?
Down from 3.5% last year. And they're citing this conflict as the primary driver, with warnings of further downgrades if Hormuz stays closed.
And it gets more grounded than just GDP percentages. Agricultural economists are sounding the alarm on severe fertilizer shortages, specifically ammonia and urea.
Right.
And why? Because their shipment routes through the Strait of Hormuz are blocked.
And this is where we have to explain why this matters to you, the listener. This isn't just a line item on an economic report.
Definitely not.
While gold and oil grab the headlines, this fertilizer shortage is the true slow-moving crisis. If farmers don't get ammonia and urea, they cannot execute the Northern Hemisphere's autumn planting season.
All right.
No fertilizer in the autumn means drastically lower crop yields in the spring, which means the price of bread, cereal, and basic staples will skyrocket for you at the grocery store next year.
So it's a direct impact on the global food supply.
Entirely.
So the physical world is facing these massive existential blockages, but at the exact same time, the digital world is undergoing a violent transformation of its own.
A total upheaval.
Let's look at the tech sector, starting with Oracle. Back in March, Oracle executed the largest workforce reduction in its 49-year history.
Massive.
They laid off 30,000 employees. That is 18% of their global headcount. And they didn't do it because they were going bankrupt, right? They did it to free up $8 to $10 billion in cash, specifically for a $50 billion AI data center pivot.
Which is just a staggering amount of money.
It is the biggest single tech layoff since IBM cut 60,000 people way back in 1993. So what does this all mean?
It's a huge shift.
My takeaway is that Oracle is essentially burning their own ships to conquer AI Island. They are betting the entire legacy of the company on AI infrastructure.
It is a massive, brutal gamble, and it highlights the staggering cost of building the physical architecture for artificial intelligence.
Right.
To build data centers, you need enormous amounts of physical land, cooling systems, and specialized servers. That requires liquid cash. Oracle had to gut its legacy workforce just to afford the entry ticket into the AI infrastructure race.
And that infrastructure race is creating geopolitical bottlenecks of its own. Look at a company like ASML.
Oh, ASML is fascinating.
Yeah.
They make extreme ultraviolet lithography equipment, or EUV.
EUV, right.
To explain that simply, they build machines that use incredibly precise lasers to print microscopic circuits onto silicon chips. They are essentially the only company in the world that can make the machines required to build advanced AI chips.
The only one.
Yeah. And because of that, they are currently caught in an increasingly untenable geopolitical tightrope between Washington and Beijing. The U.S.-China AI rivalry is turning hardware sales into a literal diplomatic minefield.
But the wild thing is, while the back end of AI is this brutal, capital-intensive geopolitical bloodbath, the consumer side is becoming magically seamless.
It's such a weird contrast.
Look at Lucid smart glasses. Innovative eyewear just added Anthropic's Claude AI alongside ChatGPT in their glasses.
Right.
You can literally switch between the two models mid-conversation without losing the context of what you're talking about.
That's incredible.
And they have a completely hands-free version coming at late Q3 2026 where you don't even need to unlock your phone.
That is the exact contrast of this era. The consumer experience is frictionless, while the back-end reality to produce that magic requires diplomatic maneuvering and billions of dollars in slash jobs.
Yeah.
The entire tech industry is experiencing a violent reshuffling of priorities. Just look at the AI model races themselves.
Oh, right.
Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro just missed its July 17th release target for the third consecutive time.
Third time?
Yeah, they are reportedly scrambling for a stopgap release of Gemini 3.6 Flash, just to have something to show.
And the Anthropic community is on the edge of their seats, right? Because the free access to Anthropic's Fable 5 model ends Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time.
Which is today.
Today. And the community forecasters are completely split. 40% think the highly anticipated Opus 5 model drops. 35% think they just get a fourth extension of free access.
And the rest.
25% think the whole system shifts to a paid credits model.
The anxiety in the AI space is palpable.
It really is. Even the old, reliable tech giants are feeling the squeeze. Netflix is sitting at a 52-week low. They're down roughly 12% after missing their Q3 revenue guidance.
Right, with Wall Street aggressively slashing their price targets.
Exactly.
It's instability across the board. The digital realm is just as turbulent as the physical one today.
Which brings us to our final set of sources, looking at our actual physical environment, the weather and climate systems.
Okay.
And there is a beautiful, almost unsettling irony here.
Oh.
Yeah. In a world where everything seems to be spiraling war in the Middle East, global inflation, massive tech layoffs, nature is actually stepping in to hit the brakes on one of our biggest annual threats.
Wow.
NOAA forecasters are projecting a quieter 2026 Atlantic hurricane season.
And that's due to a rare Atlantic La Nina.
Right.
Now, usually we have anomalously warm sea surface temperatures, which act as, high-octane fuel for hurricanes.
Right, making them huge.
Exactly. Yeah. But this La Nina pattern brings an increase in something called wind shear. You can think of wind shear like a giant pair of atmospheric scissors.
Atmospheric scissors, I like that.
As a hurricane tries to organize and build itself vertically into the sky, the wind shear literally chops the top off the storm.
Wow.
It's counteracting the heat and actively suppressing the storm's development.
It's amazing that atmospheric blockages are basically saving us from hurricanes. But is this a temporary reprieve or just the calm before a different kind of storm?
Right.
Because the rest of the weather map is definitely not quiet. On Sunday, West Texas, specifically the oil-rich Permian Basin and Big Bend regions, is facing isolated to scattered monsoon storms.
Yeah, that's rough.
And there is a high risk of flash flooding because the soil is already completely saturated. It simply cannot absorb any more water.
And the southeast is getting hit with scattered storms and dangerous heat indices near 100 degrees. And the NWS Weather Prediction Center is tracking a hazardous heat signal for the central U.S. by midweek. A massive high-pressure ridge is building in, which acts like a dome, just trapping the heat over the center of the country.
So a heat dome.
Yes. And then a cold front hits Wednesday, triggering severe storm threats across the mid-Atlantic and Northeast.
It feels relentless.
This raises an important question about systemic vulnerabilities. We are looking at overlapping extremes here.
How do you mean?
Well, think back to what we discussed earlier regarding the geopolitical conflict. Public health officials warning about infrastructure strikes on power grids, right?
Yeah.
Now pair that vulnerability with hazardous 100-degree heat indices trapped under a high-pressure dome across the central and southeastern U.S.
Oh, man.
When you have extreme heat waves testing the absolute limits of a power grid, any disruption, whether from severe Wednesday storms in the mid-Atlantic or secondary cyber ripple effects from global events, creates severe compound risks for the public.
That's terrible.
A power failure during a heat wave transforms an inconvenience into a mass casualty event.
It really brings everything full circle. I mean, just looking at this one single day, July 19th, 2026, the density of history is staggering.
It really is.
You have 55 million people watching the end of an era at MetLife Stadium with Messi bowing out against an unbreakable Spanish wall.
Right.
You have military strikes in the Middle East rewriting global security and suffocating the Strait of Hormuz. You have agricultural markets panicking over fertilizer that will dictate what you actually pay for groceries next year.
Yep.
And you have Silicon Valley laying off tens of thousands of people to fund $50 billion AI server farms. It is a day of absolute simultaneous tipping points.
And if you want one final thought to mull over as you digest all of this, consider a detail buried in the coming up section of today's sources. IBM is due to report its full Q2 earnings on Tuesday, and they have already pre-announced a miss.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We just discussed how Oracle made the biggest tech cut, 30,000 jobs, since IBM slashed 60,000 jobs back in 1993.
Right.
Now, the modern IBM is missing earnings right at the exact moment this massive $50 billion industry-wide AI infrastructure pivot begins. Are we looking at the necessary growing pains for the dawn of an AI utopia?
Or
Or are we watching the cracks of a 1990s-style dot-com bubble bursting right in front of us, entirely masked by the chaos of global conflict of a World Cup hangover?
that is the multi-billion-dollar question. And it's why we do this, why we look at how these massive global systems collide and bottleneck to see how the whole picture changes. Keep questioning the information around you, keep looking for those hidden connections, and we'll be right back here with you for the next deep dive.